Guys, part 3, last part of section 5.1 videos. So this was to go backwards. In other words, beginning part of this chapter was to take an equation, factor it, and then come up with the answers. These are giving you the answers. Matter of fact, let me show you the directions. So write a quadratic equation in standard form. So they're giving you the solutions, or roots, and they're also called zeros, and you were supposed to go backwards and find me the equation. So we already did number 1 and number 2 here, and I do want to point out one more thing here for number 2. So if you watched the previous video, I apologize for torturing you again here. If you have a regular old number for an answer, all we do is recreate the factoring by switching the sign like so. But if you have a GCF, that means there had to have been something out in front here, right? Because a GCF doesn't have 2 sets of parentheses. So if you notice, I put an X out front over here on the right. So I did mention this in the last video, but I ran out of time. There's lots of different answers for this. So if I put I don't know, let's make up a number. If I put a 5x there, does that still give you 0 for one of your answers? And it does. So it could be 5x, it could be 7x, it could be negative 9x, it could be anything you want. But if I were to distribute that guy out instead, 5x times that would be 5x squared. 5x times that would be negative 30x. But if you did take the time to refactor that, you're still going to get 0 and 6 for an answer. So you would have gotten 0, 6 for an answer for this guy, and you also would have got 0, 6 for an answer for that guy. So there's multiple answers to this. But which would be easier? How about if you just wrote an X right there in front and didn't bother with a number? Do a simple little distributive property, and you got it. So there's no need to impress me. All right, bonus round. So every single problem we have done so far had 2 answers, with the exception of, scroll up here, I will eventually find it. Aha, number 3. Take a look at number 3. The only answer was negative 9. Why was the only answer negative 9? Well, look at the parentheses. They match. So it is possible to get one answer for these, but it means that you have the same answer twice. So don't be confused by this guy. It's just me trying to be tricky. So if we tell you the answer was negative 5, then your assumption has to be that the other answer was negative 5 as well, because why would you bother writing it twice? But that is important for writing out the equation, because you have to create 2 sets of parentheses like so. And you have to switch the signs, which we did. Set it equal to 0 and FOIL it out. So first one times first one, x squared. The outside guy would be 5x. The inside guy would be 5x. That's a total of 10x. So a little shortcut there. You don't have to if you don't want. And the last one times the last one would be 25. And that's it. We got it. All right. Now, number 4. It has fractions. Fractions are your friends. Okay, standard form for an equation, guys, does not have fractions. So here's something you cannot do. You can't just simply treat it like the other ones and go, oh, okay, I'll switch the sign. I'll put an X in there, and I'll FOIL it out. Sorry, no, you can't do that because you get a bunch of fractions. Well, let me scroll back up, and hopefully you watched the previous video, because if you did, we would have done, where the heck is it? There it is, number 6. So take a look at the factoring for number 6. Right here, there are 2 numbers in the parentheses. We got a fraction for an answer. There are 2 numbers in the parentheses. We got a fraction for an answer. So in other words, you have to recreate 2 sets of parentheses for these that have 2 numbers. So I guess here's my best advice to you. If the 4 wasn't there, in other words, if it wasn't a fraction, you would have written that. We would switch the sign and you'd use the 1. But you got to put the 4 somewhere. Bingo. So on the second one, if the 2 wasn't there, in other words, if the bottom number wasn't there, it wouldn't be a fraction. You would have changed the sign and you would have written a 3. And you would have put an X there. But there is a 2 and we do need it. So right there. Now, if you know the trick going the other way around, in other words, if you're doing the factoring first and then coming up with the equations, or coming up with the answers, it would be pretty simple to go backwards here and say, oh yeah, I remember that trick. So if I have two numbers in the parentheses, I make a fraction, 3 over 2, and I change the sign. If I have two numbers in the parentheses, I change the sign and make a fraction. So go backwards and check it to make sure that you're putting the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 in the right spot. All right, so hopefully that made sense. But again, this is a no-no. You cannot do that. So then we got ourselves a FOIL problem to do. And since I got plenty of time in this video, just for kicks, I'm going to do a box this time. So I know some of you like to do the FOIL problems with a box, and that's great. What the heck happened there? I'm always bumping stuff. Alrighty, fill in the box. 4x times 2x, 8x squared. 4x times 3, 12x. Negative 1 times 2x. Negative 1 times 3. And then you just add up or combine the stuff in the box. Yeah, let's go different color just to finalize this. Get some green. So there's an 8x squared, but no other squared terms. Done with that guy. I like crossing off the box stuff once I've combined them. I get a negative 10. I'm sorry, a negative 2 and a positive 12. When combined would give you a 10x. Got those two guys. And a minus 3. Okay, now here's, it's details, right? I mean, for you, you're probably saying, come on, I got the bulk of the work done. Give me a break here. But for us math teachers, we like to be picky about stuff like this. So if the directions said to write a quadratic, you've done that. But if it said to write a quadratic equation, you haven't done that. So it really does need the equal 0. Sorry. All right, guys, that was the bonus round and conclusion of the Section 5-1 videos. Thanks a ton.